We love old cemeteries and churchyards, so come with us as we explore these places for the past. As you guys know, I do like saying hello to all the Commonwealth war graves. If I try to do that here, it might take some time. This is Cannock Chase War Cemetery in pretty much the heart of England, and Cannock Chase was quite famous during both wars for being a massive army camp. There was army and air force bases here, and there was hospitals, and there was also a prisoner of war camp, which explains why you get such an eclectic mix of burials in this wee cemetery. And that is the cemetery's cross of sacrifice, which I always find quite impressive. I mean, they're quite monumental and quite simple, but very, very effective, and they all have written round the bottom, "Their name liveth for evermore." That is a view of this graveyard. We're actually going to go over here because there's one little chap out here on his own. Now, this place is all British servicemen and German servicemen, either prisoners of war or airmen that were shot down. But there's one person from the Polish Resettlement Corps, and I'm guessing this is him. Staff Sergeant M.S. Wiktorowski, 13th August 1948. So they are Polish Resettlement Corps, so that is the Polish chap. This war grave is very much like the ones that we find in France and Belgium that I'm definitely going to take you guys to at some point. But here are some First World War graves from the Machine Gun Corps. That is Private Green and Private Moore, and behind them there are some New Zealand. There's a lot of New Zealanders in this cemetery. Not quite sure why. They must have been stationed nearby, but these are all again from the First World War. These are all 1918, these ones as far as I can see. Yep, there's Private Rifleman Mumford, from 1918, and Sergeant Allen. Yep, they're all 1918. So this is row upon row of identical white stones. It's a really, really nice wee place. I do like these graveyards. They serve their purpose, as in they're a reminder of the sacrifice that these guys made. I do always wonder about the organisation, because these are RAF personnel from the 1940s, from the Second World War. Why are they over here on their own? I don't know. That's just the way it has been laid out. When you go to some of the ones in Belgium and France, they're laid out at random because they were actually buried while the fighting was still going on. So yeah, they're not very neatly organised, some of those graveyards. I wonder what happened to New Zealanders on the 7th of November 1918, just before the war ended, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, all from the 7th of November, and then one from the 6th of November, and then the 4th of November, and the 5th of November. So yeah, they're all round about the same time. We'll have to do a little bit of research and see what happened. I'm guessing that could have been an accident at a barracks or something. Not sure, but they're all November 1918, just before the war ended. How unlucky. So these are the New Zealanders who would have been facing the Germans in life, and in death, guess what? They're facing lots and lots of Germans. These are either prisoners of war who died over here, or they're airmen that were shot down, as I said. I read that on the sign over there, that's how I know. But these are all, enemies basically, but they're given the same respect and the same sort of status as the Allied dead. Over here they even got the same or very similar white headstones. If you go across to Belgium, they don't. They've got flat black headstones. They weren't allowed sort of these nice white ones for some political and revenge reason, I guess. All the ones I can see round about here are 1919, so after the end of the First World War. And there's somebody who died in 1946, and there's somebody who died in 1948, Wilhelm Barres, and J. Wasil, 1948. I'm probably murdering the pronunciation of these names. I do apologise. I don't think I'm even going to try Eberhard Fischer, but hey-ho. There's Heinrich Schneider. I think I'm quite safe with that one. And Friedrich Madl, and these are all after the end of the Second World War. And the ones behind are all after the end of the First World War. And as you probably know, the First World War finished on the 11th of the 11th, 1918, and that poor guy died on the 10th, so he didn't make it, just a day before the war ended. But across there, 13th of November, 21st of November, these were all people who died just shortly after the war. That's always, I find that quite sad. I mean, they just about survived and then fell at the last hurdle, so to speak. The First World War was obviously a massive waste of life, but the 21st of February 1919, 20th of February 1919, so that is well after the end of the war, people were still dying. In fact, almost all of these Germans that I can see just standing here are all after the end of the First World War, so it's quite a large death toll even after hostilities officially ceased. But if you think this is quite a lot of Germans, you ain't seen nothing yet, because we're now going to head up the road a little bit to somewhere that is quite special, very, very atmospheric, and also very interesting, I hope. So we're going to leave Cannock Chase War Cemetery behind and head up the road about half a mile. And this is the gate into the German military cemetery, so let's go and see what we can see. I was here once, but it was a lot of years ago, although I don't imagine it's changed very much. There is a recumbent statue that is to commemorate 50 years of friendship and working together for peace and reconciliation between Staffordshire County Council and the German War Graves Commission in Bremen from 2012. That's quite nice. Right, let's go. There's a big puddle that way, so we'll see if there's another way around. Let's go this way instead. And this is where you start to see what I can see, which is lots and lots and lots and lots, and yeah, quite a few war graves. Yeah, one or two possibly. And if you think that's a lot, you haven't seen around that corner yet, because there are more and more and more. And the big sign in front of us says that in this German cemetery rest 2,143 soldiers of the First World War and 2,786 of the Second World War. And then there's 5 unknown of the former and 90 unknown of the latter. And they all died on British territory. Some of them were prisoners of war that died here. Some of them were airmen that were shot down. So let's go and have a wee look and see what we can see. So these are all from the Second World War, 1941, 1941. I'm not going to insult, I know we have some German people that watch this channel, I'm not going to insult them by murdering your language, but these are nice stones. They're again very simple, and it looks like there's two people per grave. So there's Gerhard and Herbert, who died in 1945. And there is, that says 2 unknown German soldiers. Yeah, that's my high school German coming into play. That one's got 3. It's got Harold, Rudi and Hermann, 1940, and then Hermann's 1943. And there's a doctor, Dr. Otto Sommer, who died in 1940. But up here there's Adolf Fleckenstein. Now there's a Christian name that has somewhat gone out of fashion. And then there's Otto and Johann, and yeah, it's just like being in any other cemetery, except it's just on a huge scale, and the stones are all the same, or mostly all the same actually. I think we're going to go wander about and find some bits that are different, if that's not too much of a spoiler. And just to show that I'm not quite as smart as I think I am, I thought that said 69,470. I wonder if that's a date. Yeah, the 69th of April, and that one is 97th of April 98, and that one is 125th of April 126. I think that's actually a grave reference number, Ian, you idiot. And there's another wee thing that shows you how slow the process of repatriation was after the war for all the prisoners. They were November 1947. I always find it quite nice in these cemeteries, although obviously these people's children have probably not even still alive. You still get the odd one that somebody's been across and left some flowers, which is really pretty. These men are not forgotten. Not quite, not yet. And not as long as the War Graves Commissions in Britain and Germany keep looking after them and keep this place looking like this. And keeping the place looking like this is an ongoing job. Back in the other cemetery, we're in the Cannock Chase War Cemetery. I mentioned that the Germans in Belgium don't have standing up headstones. The headstones are all black lying down on the deck, and I've just seen this here, which is very similar I think to the ones that they have over there, but I'll just go and look and I will let you know. Yeah, these are very similar to the cemeteries that you have in Belgium round about Ypres. The stones are lying flat and there's multiple burials under each. So I wonder why this bit has got these and the rest of the cemetery has all got standing up, like what you call proper tombstones. I wonder if this is the oldest part, this is the original part, and that's why they've got those stones. No idea, that is a guess, but we'll see if we can find an answer. So we're going to go down here and head up this hill past, you guessed, lots and lots more tombstones. There are a number of sort of big names here, a number of significant burials. There's Arctic explorers and fighter aces and SS generals, but this is one of the most well known. It's the only one I'd ever heard of. This is Ernst Busch, who was a field marshal, the highest ranking person in the graveyard, I think, and he died in 1945. So being a high ranking field marshal did not protect him from dying in England. Now, I do know what most of these ranks are. GEFR was Geirvitr, and then there's Lundstrom and Musketeer. I don't know what Internerter is. Internerter, if somebody is watching and could let me know, could you let me know, because I like to know these things. But there are a lot of these Interneters here from the First World War, and again, I apologise, I'm probably not saying that even close to right. Actually, I just googled it, and that Interneter means internee, so these are people that were interned and then died while they were in internment. They don't have a cross of sacrifice here because obviously it's not an Allied cemetery, but they do have a big concrete cross, and as I said that, I walked right in front of a tree so you can't actually see it. So let's go down and have a look at the big concrete cross. Not that you probably have to, you can imagine what a big concrete cross looks like. This is a really, really nice graveyard. The only thing about these graveyards is there's not a lot of variety to make an episode of this thing interesting. They're all the same. But there is something over there that looks a little bit different, so that is where I am heading. There's a bigger stone at the top of the hill. It's not overly exciting. It was unveiled by the Duke of Kent in 1987 to mark 25 years of friendship between Staffordshire and Bremen, and they planted 25 oak trees, so I'm guessing that is them around there. Now, if I recall correctly, and I frequently don't, there are some other nationalities buried here, people that fought obviously on the German side, but I'm sure there was stones here from other countries. I will see if I can find those. I think the use of heather is quite simple but effective. I guess it keeps the weeds down and makes maintenance easier, and it also looks, it's a splash of colour in what is otherwise a fairly sombre and grey place, especially on a day like this when it is sombre and grey all round. There is not a soul about. I would love to come down here and put the drone up, but there's just that hint of drizzle in the air, and electronics and water do not mix. My drone is far from waterproof, so that's a bit of a shame, because this would be quite interesting from above, I think. I wonder if he's any relation to the aeroplane man. Probably not, but anyway, that is the German cemetery. I think I was just imagining there was other nationalities here. I'm going to take a walk and make sure. Then I'm going to go to another little bit of this cemetery that we saw on the way in that was guarded by that big puddle. And up in this top corner there is, there's lots of German war graves. There's also this stone plaque. Let's go and see what it says. It says, I can't see from that angle, it says, in everlasting memory of Ukrainian soldiers who rest here in peace. I knew I'd seen something about foreign soldiers or non-German soldiers here. There are some Ukrainians somewhere, so we'll go and see if we can find them. But we'll have to identify them by their names and the script on their tombstones, I think, because I don't think they'll have "from Ukraine" written anywhere. You probably can't see this, but I can only just make it out. This stone was left by the Association of Ukrainian Former Combatants in Great Britain in 1986, so let's see if we can find any Ukrainians. Mitrofan Tyshchenko, probably, certainly sounds Eastern European, but he could just be like from East Germany, so that's probably not a very educated guess. And unsurprisingly, not far from that plaque about the Ukrainians in this graveyard, here are lots of definitely Eastern European names. There's Petro, and I'm not even going to try that one below it. Nope, not even going to try. Konstantin and Mikhailo. This must be the Ukrainian section of the cemetery. Mykola Holodiz. I'm not even going to try that. It's got SZYN at the end of it, and yeah, don't speak the language. The First World War was the first war on an industrial scale, so let's go now and visit the graves of some men who died at the absolute bleeding edge of a technology that's now become very common. And this is it. This is when the phrase "death from above" was coined. This is the crew of 4 German Zeppelins that were shot down in the First World War. The onset of technology that we now take for granted when we look at war on television. It is things getting dropped on other people, and these guys were amongst the first. That is the SL-11 from 1916, and that is the L-32 from 1916, the L-31 also from 1916, and I'll have to run so I can keep talking, the L-48 from 1917. And what I didn't realise until I stood here is, you know, the Zeppelins were quite big. I didn't realise the crew was about like 20 men. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 men died, and they're all buried here together. Originally, as it says over there, they were buried in little churches in London, but then they were all gathered up and brought here and buried together. It says individual caskets but in the same grave. When the Zeppelin raids first started, they spread absolute terror amongst the people of London because there was apparently no way to stop them because the fighters of the day and the tactics of the day could not reach them. But a Zeppelin is basically a big bag of highly explosive gas, so fighters were developed and techniques were developed that meant they could be brought down, from which point it must have been absolutely terrifying. Going from flying over the city with impunity, dropping your bombs, to knowing that you could be dead any minute if you got caught in a searchlight and a fighter managed to get an incendiary bullet into you, because one incendiary bullet is all it would take to bring these behemoths down. I promised you something a bit different, so there you are, I've delivered. That is a little bit different. There aren't any other German cemeteries like this in the UK, so yeah, this is quite a special place.